Namaste. Welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga Podcast. I'm Happy Jack, live from the Harvard Innovation Lab in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. And I'm here with
Happy Hannah, and I'm also in that same location with all those words, right? Like over there is your room, and we're next to each other.
I can hear you. I can hear you in the next room. Yeah, it's been cool. You've been here for a few days, and it's in a way bittersweet. This is the last day, last full day. Tomorrow morning, we drive back to Canada. That means year two is done and dusted at Harvard Divinity School. And I'm telling you, time goes quick. It really does. But it's all good, and many exciting things to look forward to. But why don't you share, Hannah? You've been here for a few days now in the great city of Boston. What is on your heart? What have you observed, experienced, witnessed that you'd like to share?
Well, I love being here. If I love Boston and Cambridge. It's been really interesting to be now where the ashram is. It's a different area than where you used to live, where I was more familiar, where actually at Harvard in Cambridge. And I love that area. It feels like Europe in many ways. And now this time I've spent time where the ashram is, which is a different area, more in Boston itself, Back Bay. And that's really beautiful. And lights go off every once in a while in this room. Sorry. So it's been really nice to get to know that area, going to the park every day, running with you this morning, doing the morning practices at the ashram just sets me up for a blissful day. Yeah, I'm really grateful to kind of dive into your world. Like every morning you send me a text message on WhatsApp with like the timestamps, like what happens at 4, 4:05, 4:15, 4:50, 5:10, 5:10, like that. And then I can just jump in whenever I want. And I'll say, okay, where are you at? I'm going to come run, or I'm coming to the morning service, or whatever the things are that we do. It's been really fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening, and I'm glad you're enjoying it and being here and jumping in with an open mind, open heart, as it fits your schedule. And yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of really cool things happening. One thing we must mention though before we forget, because we forgot the last 2 weeks. Sue, we're not going to forget today. That's right. This month, this month of April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. And we have a dear friend, Sue, who's on the call live with us. She's been to the Muskoka retreat. She's coming again this summer. A dear member of the community for some years now. And it's something you're navigating. And what's so inspiring, Sue, is that as you navigate it, you're really an advocate for yourself, for others. You don't let it prevent you from coming to a yoga retreat and being in the circle with us and sharing high fives and sweaty hugs. And you really play full out. But it's an important thing. It's an important thing to bring that awareness. And so we just wanted to do a shout out. If there's anything, Sue, wanted to share, if you want to put it in the chat, we can do that. But we just really wanted to let everybody know that it's something to be aware of. In fact, the Boston Marathon was just last week here in Boston. And what's really cool is that so many of the runners, it's really become more of like, it's not about running to win. It's like everybody who's running in the Boston Marathon is running to raise money for some charity. And the reason I thought of it is because, many of them are running to raise funds for Parkinson's. And so when we have these, whether ourselves are navigating something or someone in our family is navigating something, we have this opportunity as yogis, as yoga teachers, whatever platform we have, to bring awareness to it. So certainly, Sue, we're sending our love to you. Thank you for reminding us, letting us know. And yeah,
And it's
amazing, amazing.
beautiful because if if you can breathe, you can do yoga. And sometimes that is the way we practice. It's not about the pretzels. So many ways to practice yoga, and that's what I would also want to kind of add to the Parkinson's Awareness Month conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I see Sue put in the chat, she says, just wanted to add that her yoga practice has really a unique ability to help with the symptoms. And that's a beautiful thing. We're so happy to hear that. Marina also adds, thank you for spotlighting Parkinson's Awareness Month. My heart is deeply involved in this fight. That's just like a reminder of sometimes we may feel alone. Like, Sue's up in Sturgeon Falls, Ontario, Canada, kind of small town. I don't know, maybe doesn't know a lot of people navigating it there. But then all of a sudden we share in our extended community as yoga teachers. And now we got a friend, Marina, on the other side of the ocean, who's like, hey, I'm involved in this as well. And so it lets us know we're in this together. One of our mottos, Hanna, no yogi left behind. And yeah, in fact, now that I say no yogi left behind, we got to do a shout out to our 200-hour Hero's Journey graduates. I see right in the top screen, Mr. Ryan Knight. Yes, one of our graduates. Let's see, Suzanne is there. Marina is there. And then, of course, everybody else yeah, has graduated just earlier. But some of you graduated just this past weekend. And what a beautiful way to bring people together and celebrate and hear the ways that they've transformed their lives by bringing more yoga into their life. What do you
Yeah.
think, Hannah?
I think that it makes me think about the conversation we often refer to nowadays is the one where the question is like, what is more important, the journey or the destination? And the answer is the company. And I feel like we're so lucky to have a community where this is an ongoing kind of wave and ripple of yogis who come into connection with each other and do transformational work like the 200 hour, which is our most, I think, one of our most powerful trainings where you really make incredible friends, and the joy to see the group come together and then graduate every time. It never gets like, oh, been here, done that. Like for us, I don't know how many years we've been doing this, but it's the environment and the people that I want to be surrounded with are people like this who
Yeah.
come into these trainings and take a deep dive into themselves and into yoga, and then they turn around and offer it to the world. So it's not self-centered in that way. There's always an element of sharing it and creating communities where everyone is all over around the world.
Yeah. And it,
And
and it, and the cool thing is we really get clarity on what yoga is, what yoga is not. And I'm excited, Hanna, this afternoon, you're going to be coming to a couple of my classes. One of them is that because it's the last day of classes and I got permission from the professors for you to sit in. And one of them is the Yoga Sutras. And just last week, this blew my mind. What I'm going to share now, my friends, it blew my mind. You can believe it or not. I don't know. I find it hard to believe, but I also find it hard not to believe. So before I even tell you, just so you're sitting on the edge of your seat. So the person who shared this comes from a credible source. So there's this Buddhist monk named Tenzin, and he's in our class. He's in year 2 with me. And so here's just a little bit about his bio. So Tenzin is a Tibetan Buddhist monk who graduated as this special title at the highest possible degree in the studies of Tibetan Buddhism from a monastery in southern India. He studied for over 25 years for this program and has excelled in all his studies, including all this stuff. He's recognized as a reincarnated tulku in the tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. So they from birth they believe he was some special master from a previous life. Anyways, let's see. It says he's an assistant English translator for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. On and on.
so this is a
He's
classmate of yours?
a classmate of mine. He helps poor children in their education. Yeah, he created a school. So this is the person who said the thing, which I'm going to say in a second. So it's a pretty credible source. And we were just like casually talking about the Yoga Sutras, and we were talking about the third chapter, Pada 3. And he just like casually said, he's like, yeah, I saw someone levitate, about 1 meter off the ground. And I just like my mouth dropped. Like I stopped him, not the professor. I said, "Excuse me, did I just hear you say you've seen somebody levitate 1 meter off the ground?" And he's like, "Yeah, like no big deal." And but then he went on to say, they don't make a big deal out of it, and they don't show these
They don't show these yogic,
if they were to lead with and present these kinds of powers. I think
they
it was
don't
you, not
show
me.
these powers.
Yeah, so if they were to show these yogic powers, then people would, feel that this is the purpose of yoga, and then they would be seeking, this ability to meditate or the ability to all these other siddhis or powers. But really the ultimate purpose of Buddhism is to become liberated, right? To do meditation, to become liberated. Anyways, the point being, can you imagine that? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Never mind doing it. Can you imagine seeing somebody? And this is not like some magic trick in Las Vegas, which is probably pretty cool also. But this is like a monk levitating 1 meter. I don't know. It blew my mind.
I love that you also include magic tricks in LA. That can also be awesome.
Well,
For sure is
yeah, I don't
awesome.
know how. I don't know if they have powers or if they're just like crazy magicians. But like, I don't know. I've never seen it. But isn't there somebody who like levitates up above that big pyramid building on the Las Vegas Strip? I don't know.
That
I'm
I've
not
never
here to.
heard either, but both seem really amazing. But
Yeah,
what I
both.
love in this story is like you're saying that they don't show the siddhis, which
Yeah.
translate to power, because yoga and their practice is about liberation. And then when we translate that into English, it means like think about the spectrum from like desiring power versus desiring liberation in
Mm,
our reality. What would that mean and look like?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's like we get to really think on that and reflect on that of why are we doing the practice? Because, and I think that we get started for maybe more shallow reasons or superficial reasons. Like maybe we first come to yoga because we want to transform our body, and that's a good thing. Maybe it's not the highest purpose of yoga, but it's still a positive, pious activity. But then as we go on this path, it's like, okay, well, why am I getting up early? Why am I getting on my yoga mat and doing these practices or doing this meditation? Is it is it to is it to look more sexy? Maybe that's why we start. Or is it to be a more kind person? Is it because I want to be more humble? I want to be more tolerant. I want to be less critical and less judgmental. And it's like this is the way, this is like the path. Um, yeah, which is why obviously we love it.
Yeah, and like the conversation we had this morning on our morning walk after the run, where we discussed together, you and I, Jack, about like why we engage in healthy habits is not just for the ego or the physical benefits, but also like what about doing it so that we can serve better, so we can
Yeah.
serve more. And that even serving has like a maybe a little bit negative kind of cling to it in our language, but what we mean by serving is to be there for other people in a way that feels good, like not neglecting ourselves,
Mhm.
but to be useful in the world, to dedicate our lives to something that is useful beyond ourselves. So that would be why we come to yoga, so that we can be more humble, less critical, but also more helpful. What if we came to yoga so we can be more helpful in the world, so that we can
Yeah.
be more patient and kind with
That's it.
people, because life is a lot about it is about suffering or uncomfortableness or navigating, or even if we're positive minded, we can't deny the fact that having a body comes with some issues like Parkinson's, for example. could happen in
Yeah.
the body. The body could manifest that.
Yeah.
And so the reason we go for a run and go for a sunrise walk and drink water in addition to
Hmm.
coffee for some of us is so that we are hydrated and helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can make a contribution. It's so true. Just really thinking about why we do anything. That was some of the beautiful shares from this 200-hour hero's journey that just finished, is like some of the students were sharing their why, and like why they feel so inspired now to share this with others because the impact it's had on them. And yeah, I think it's important to reflect on that, and let's all answer that question. Why do we practice yoga? Why are we listening to a yoga podcast right now? Why are we rolling out our mat once a day? And for me, it has changed. Like it used to be more about the physical, and now it's like, I mean, this is part of the reason, those who are on live with us on the video can see I've shaved my head,
Which I
right? And
helped
I don't know.
yesterday, so I can take some credit for this
Yeah.
beautiful look of yours.
Yeah. But actually the whole point is, because in the material, apparently I haven't seen the verse itself, but apparently in the 12th chapter of a yogic text called the Srimad Bhagavatam, it actually foresees that in Kali Yuga, the age of Kali, the age of quarrel, which is where we are right now at this point in history. This book from thousands of years ago predicted that people would be spending a lot of time and energy on things like their hair, right? And this was at a time when people weren't going to get their hair done, and it predicted this. And sure enough, here, like I know you, Hanna, others, right, will go and get your hair done. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, right? Of course. But so the purpose of the yogis, from shaving their head, it's kind of like relinquishing a material attachment. Because normally we take pride. I mean, I have as well. I used to like messing it up on top and kind of putting it into a little bit of a mohawk down the center. And I liked the way my hair looked. And now it's like, whoa, it's not there anymore. And I see Brandon's hair is not there anymore either. And so it's like as we go on this yogic journey, we and I'm not saying everybody needs to shave their head, and certainly not suggesting that like I'm doing it like, hey, look at me, I'm a yogi. But it's kind of this, the purpose is to practice that non-attachment, right? And it's not like, I'm sure at some point I'm going to grow out my hair again, whether it's at the end of the summer or it's next year or whatever it is. But it's like kind of practice, whatever it is, whether we get on the yoga mat, we do the meditation, we shave our head, we move into the ashram, any of these things, it's like, how can it help us grow so that we feel more inspired to make a contribution, to make a difference.
Yeah,
And I see Felicia saying here, non-attachment is so hard. I got you. I hear you, Felicia.
yeah.
Totally.
And it's almost like a practice of yoga, this one for you to cut your hair off, right? Where you let go and you put yourself in an uncomfortable position, maybe. Now you get used to it, maybe. So it might not be so hard for you to do it
I
because you
kind of
made the
like it now.
decision. So
I can I can I can acknowledge I don't think it looks as good. I think I look less good. I'll take that, but I kind of like it. I kind of like it. So I'm
like
gonna
having short hair or no hair.
like no hair, yeah, buzzed off. I do. I do, but it's like kind of getting used to things, right? It's like even the ashram where I'm living at now, like when I used to just stay here like I used to just visit, and then I started staying here one night a week on Friday nights. And I enjoyed while I was here, but it was so uncomfortable in ways that when I went home on Saturdays to my apartment in Cambridge, I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful I have my own space, my own bathroom, my own quiet bed. It's like I could not do this. I don't know how they do this. So it's like at first it was like way out of my comfort zone and it just didn't seem feasible. But then all of a sudden, I stayed there every Friday night for a whole semester. And by the end of the semester, I'm like, actually, I see how I could make this work. And even though there would be some discomforts, there would be a lot of spiritual uplifting benefits. And you experienced that this morning, Hanna, right? You came, I asked, I mean, you've dabbled into different things, but you specifically came this morning because I was leading, I was singing the mantras, leading the prayers. And I don't know what, why don't you share your experience? I was really touched with what you shared after that. You really enjoyed it.
I don't remember what I shared right after, but what I do notice about
Well,
being in ashram. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you were talking about how the lyrics to the words we were reading, the Sanskrit words resonated because you recognize some of them, and then the English translation, you want to go back and read because you're like, wow, this is like a really beautiful intention of what it is we're.
What we're praying for. You cut off again. Yeah, like
Ah,
the words that that was really beautiful. But overall, I'll say about being in the ashram, for me, it's a little bit like being in India. India is a little bit uncomfortable because there's a lot happening simultaneously. It's funny, like this slice of this brownstone building that is like attached to many of them. It's a huge building, 4 or 5 floors. All of it is the ashram. And that slice is just like somebody brought a slice of India and planted it right in the middle of Boston. And that's fascinating and beautiful. And also for a Westerner, it can be a lot of sensory input because
mhm.
everything's everywhere and it's beautiful, but it takes some time to get adjusted to. But then I
Yeah.
notice like when I'm not in the ashram that the mantras are with me as I walk. And I don't have the practice of saying the mantras or doing the mala beads or anything. I just kind of sleep there and do the things and then I go out into the world. And there is a different feeling of presence. It rubs off by being there and sleeping there. And then this morning, I really enjoyed the morning practice because the mantras are beautiful. You know the mantra that you lead is really beautiful as well. And I would want to hear it again and learn it because there's something about the words. They are in Sanskrit. And maybe because I have heard mantras now for almost 20 years, they are in Sanskrit. I'm not fluent. I'm not a student of Sanskrit. So I don't always know even the exact words of the mantras. I just know the overall meaning, who they are for, what they are for, like that. But so in this setting, they give you a piece of paper where the Sanskrit is written and then everyone sings it. And then there's two translations. One where the sentences are like, here's what we're saying, here's what it means, blah, 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 full English sentences. So you understand the whole mantra. And then there's next to it, there's another kind of column that translates each word in from Sanskrit to like the concept. And it's incredibly rich when you see what we're saying, the beauty of those words and the impact of those words on your soul
Mhm.
is it makes an imprint. Like we're talking about karma and samskara and neurology a lot in the trauma informed training. These are imprints that are to me feel like healthy and they feel like the environment that I want to be in, like the company from this analogy of being on the journey. That feels like the company that I want to be in. That's the ocean that I want to swim in. It's an ocean of love and an ocean of tolerance and higher thinking, higher awareness than what the world often would like to induce, you know,
Mhm.
stall in us.
And like you say, what a great way to start the day. Because
Mhm.
how have any of us started our day? Sometimes we start the day and we open up social media, or we're still in bed looking at the blue screen, right? Or we whatever, turn on the news, watch the whatever the latest news or what happened. And it's just a, like you say, it's building these samskaras, these imprints, these conditionings. It's filling our heart up, and yeah, and knowing that not everybody's going to go move into a temple, but what we can do as yogis and yoga teachers is find these different practices, these different environments. It might be your local yoga studio. It might be joining us in Zoom for, I saw a beautiful message here from Sue. I just want to call out. It says, I don't want to get all mushy here, but I don't see how I would have gotten through these past few years without the Happy Jack Yoga community. Not a word of a lie. Love you all. It's important to have people in our life. That's the kind of, yeah, thank you, Sue. And it's important to have people in our life like that. And it's about finding the path that feels right for us, for this moment. And another really nice distinction that I appreciated, another class you're coming to this afternoon, Hanna, is with Professor Diane Eck. And I'm super excited for you to experience her. That's the Ritual in the Life Cycle course.
All semester you've said, Hannah, you should have been in this class. You should have been here today. You should have heard what she said. So I can't wait to hear
Telling
what
you.
she says.
I'm telling you, yeah, and it's the last class. It's her very last class. She's 79 years young. She's been teaching at Harvard for 35 years, and it's her very last class. And there's gonna be a lot of like other professors coming there to celebrate her. So it's gonna be a special one. But on apparently, actually, this is from one of her books. So she didn't even say this directly, but somebody referenced this. So there's this word creed. And so sometimes we think of creed as like a set of guiding principles or even beliefs. And but Diana actually defines it differently because creed comes from the Latin word credo. And so it doesn't mean I believe, rather it means I give my heart to. And I love that because to say I believe, it's so strong. And I mean, some of you do have things that I believe, and that's amazing when we can get to that in some aspect of our life. But at least for me, it's, maybe I'm in my head too much, but it's like really hard to fully just give myself and say, I believe, but this subtle shift of I give my heart to. And so it's not like, oh, I'm giving up all of my power and I'm just like surrendering. It's like I'm going to give myself fully, coming back to being of service and making a difference and a contribution. I just love that idea of giving our heart to what we do.
I love that. And then sometimes our heart just resonates with something. And going back to the singing and the mantra and the prayers, like my invitation here as a yoga teacher, and we often in our community talk about this, but I think a yogic practice for listeners would be notice what does make your heart sing. Notice which words land in your heart and what makes a difference in your world, and what kind of words, what kind of environments,
Mm,
and what kind of people make your heart sing, and why.
mhm.
Like, journal about it, be an inquiry around it. That could be your yoga practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, and it comes down to the intention. Where did I hear this kind of shared the other day? Where some people say it's not enough to just have a good intention, because if we just have a good intention, we can still fall short of our goals. But the yogis would say, yes, it is enough to have a good intention. If you have a good intention, whether or not you achieve what you want to achieve, that's irrelevant because we're not attached to the outcome, but just doing it with pure intention because we want to give our heart to it. And just a nice example of that this morning, Hanna, so like yesterday, I was hoping you came yesterday because the person who sang the morning prayers yesterday was like, it like blew my mind. It was like the best I've ever heard. It was just like so good, this young boy. And today, the person who sang, not being critical or anything, but he's a little bit, kind of a little bit off key, a little bit off beat. So like a professional singer could easily look at that and be like, oh, it's not quite
It's
right, or
not
it's
as
not quite,
entertaining, or it doesn't make your heart
yeah,
sing the same way as when someone maybe more like just naturally musically gifted person delivers
yeah.
prayers.
Yeah, but then we quickly, both of us recognize, like, yeah, well, you know what? Okay, so this guy, even though he was a little bit off key and a little bit this or a little
Out
bit
of
that,
breath at the
he
end.
he was out of breath. He was like totally out of breath. So we're kind of like, he needs to do a little bit of yoga, he needs a little bit of do it exercise. But like, let's drop all that criticism and recognize, wow, he was singing from his heart. He was singing from his soul. And so I guess that's the lens that we start to cultivate when we do this yoga practice. Less about finding what's wrong or what could be better or what's not the way it's meant to be, and more like seeing the beauty. It's like, wow, because he
Look for the
definitely
beauty.
he definitely was giving his all. And yeah, so it's a pretty cool practice. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, this came from another one of my classes, this meaning making discussion. And this was another little quote, which I liked as well. And so this is talking about religion. You could insert the word spirituality if you're more comfortable with that. But I'll say it the way it was said, that religion is building a house of obligation on a foundation of choice. And I like the way that was said. So it's kind of like, well, if we're going to choose a religion, or if we're going to choose a spiritual path, and not that you need to choose one, but if we're going to choose one, well, then we want to give ourselves fully to it, give our heart fully to it, and be obliged, follow the practices, follow the principles. So there's that idea of it's a house of obligation. However, it's built on a foundation of choice. And I really like that. So it's like, hey, we're all free here. We're free to choose, either to choose this path or that path or no path or multiple paths. So the most important thing is we've got this freedom of choice, which we could say is not always the case, right? There are parts of the world still today, of course, where people don't have a choice. But most of us on this call, we have a choice. That's the foundation. And then once we do, if we do choose a path, well, it's like, this is why, I really like Professor Bryant, who's joined some of our courses. He's like, well, if you're gonna, instead of just dabbling in a bunch of different things, eventually choose one. Choose the one that feels the most authentic for you. Give your heart to it. Give yourself fully to it, and and kind of going deep in the one. And so I like that idea of yeah, having the choice, but then once we have made a choice, to really practice it sincerely and humbly.
Yeah, I love that. Choose a path and give it your heart to it.
Yeah,
If you
that's
feel
it, because
you don't have to. You could choose to.
you could, you totally could. And because what it comes down to, I think all of us can appreciate this. Like when we look at time goes quick. I mentioned it before. Like today is the last day of classes, 2 years of school done. Like boom, in an instant, it's done. And it's interesting because now, in the circles that I'm in now, at the Harvard Divinity School, at the ashram, um, I'm one of the older people. Like I'm one of the, and I'll tell you, I always remember I used to always be the young guy. When I was working for John Deere, I was like fresh out of university, 22, and working with these guys who were like either in their late 20s or in their 30s, or my goodness, already in your 40s. Whoa. And I was always the young guy on the block. And even when I left John Deere when I was 31, 10 years later, I was still, younger than most of my colleagues. They were late 30s or, into their 40s. So the point being, there was this phase of life where I always seem to be the young person in the group. And now all of a sudden in the circles I'm a part of, I'm like, I'm not going to say an elder. I'm not an elder, but I'm just, 10, 20 years older than a lot of the people. And the point being is just like time goes quickly. We can see our body changing. We can see it, look in the mirror and can see. And so it's just a reminder to do the things that, as you said, hon, that make our heart sing, give our heart fully to. How do we want to spend our time when it's like so precious, and yeah, jump in.
I think that maybe not everyone knows what makes their heart sing. How can we know?
Mm,
How can we find a path? How can we choose if we don't know what the choices are?
yeah, that's a great question. I feel like for me, it seems like we need to get curious. We need to, like, what helps is to journal, to ask questions. Like that's one thing. We were just doing our final reflections for my internship at the ashram, and my supervisor, as he was writing up my reflection last night, I stayed up past my bedtime until 9 p.m. So I apologize if I'm off my game today. That was like way too late. But we got this reflection paper done, and he said one of the things he appreciated about me is that, like, I ask a lot of questions. And I'm not afraid to share what I'm struggling with, what's challenging me, what's overwhelming me. So I feel like having this mindset, this beginner mindset of, be willing to ask questions, be willing to share what it is that we're navigating, really. So that's one aspect. And I think just trying different things, giving things a go, and surrounding ourselves with people who are doing things that inspire us. That's what this community is all about. As I look around here, I see Brandon, Ryan, Saga, Sue, Suzanne, Felicia, Marina, Andrea, Lorna, beautiful souls around the world, many others who are listening on the podcast platforms. It's like, what was that quote I shared yesterday? Oh, I think I took a screenshot. Check this one out. So this is a quote, and I thought this was really good. So this is it says, "May I let go of the worry that So this is actually I should say it's a message to God. So it says, like, dear God, dear divinity, may I let go of the worry that I'm supposed to be anywhere other than where you've lovingly placed me." So just that idea, because sometimes we feel like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet. I'm already X, years of age, and I'm not where I intended to be. I'm not where I should be. I'm not where my friends are. I'm not blah, blah, blah. But actually, if we can let go of that worry that I'm supposed to be anywhere other than where you have lovingly placed me, consider we've all been placed where we are right now. Um, and at the same time, though, I think that there's value in stretching ourselves and putting ourselves out there. And I guess for me, sorry for rambling so long, but it seems to me that, like, asking questions is really helpful for me. Surrounding myself with good people and asking questions
I love
seems
that.
to,
That was a very good answer to how to find your path, right?
yeah. Yeah, and so the interesting thing, another thing I was going to touch on, it's like finding this balance because, Hanna, as you've seen, you've been here for a week, and how much time have you spent at Harvard Divinity School?
0 minutes.
Zero. Zero. So, and how much time have you spent at Harvard Business School every
So
day?
many minutes every day.
Right. And so the point being that it's kind of silly, but it's like I always work either at the Harvard Law School or the Harvard Business School libraries or conference rooms, truthfully, because nobody knows me. And it seems kind of contradictory, but it's like it allows us to get in to focus, and there's not a lot of people who are, want to talk and get distracted. And the divinity school is great, obviously love it there. But it's like, everybody. So it's like you walk 10 feet down the hall, somebody's saying hi. You walk another 10 feet, and it's just, and if that's what we're looking for, if we're looking for meaningful connection, well, then it's important to go to spaces where we know people and that. But sometimes we need to have kind of boundaries and discipline with our time, when we know we have to lead a podcast, or we know we have to lead a trauma-informed yoga course, or we know we have to write a paper or something like that. But I guess I brought it up because our friend Mars, who we talked about on last week's podcast, 82 years young, and he kept really reiterating the importance of having these circles of friends every time. He loves, that's why he loves connecting with me and just different people, because he just sees these different synergies, and he really values friendships and relationships. So I guess on one side, I want to acknowledge the importance of those friendships and relationships and meaningful connection. And I guess at the other side, I'm just acknowledging the fact that, I also default to protecting my time, so that I can get the things done. And so I guess that's where it becomes a balance of, like, understanding our nature, because sometimes maybe we can over isolate ourselves, and that's not healthy. And sometimes, I know people at the Harvard Divinity School who are just, they're on every committee, every social committee, every WhatsApp group, and they're going to come back, they're going to graduate Harvard Divinity School with like an incredibly rich experience, in many different ways. But they also, I'm sure, weren't like running a business and leading courses and, getting A's, right? But that wasn't their intention, likely, right? So just really understand, what is our intention? Why are we here? What's important? What's our commitments, our obligations? And then also, still, where can we stretch ourselves to connect with others?
And what makes the heart sing, right?
Yeah,
Like your heart sings when you get things done. And
it
we're
does.
on top of your boot camp to-do list, and you love revising it, and you love making tweaks into it, and you love being efficient and having the feeling of progress and like that, right?
I love it.
You do want harmony in your relationships. You are someone
Mm.
who doesn't want to create conflict. And when there is conflict, you're uncomfortable. So you want to sort it out. That's my experience of you as being next to you for 10 years. I feel like I can say that. It's easy to see. And so what is in your heart is a unique mix of things that is unique to your heart. And you've identified that, and you can see that in your choices, right? And then God
Yeah.
places you lovingly in all these different places where you have the choices of different libraries. So there's nothing wrong with picking the one that works for you and makes your heart sing, so that you can dedicate your time equally and evenly to all the different projects you are involved in. And
Mhm.
simultaneously, you're observing the world like, oh, there's a lot of students in my class who have a different tune in their heart, right?
Yeah. That's it. That's it. And I feel like, as part of that, as part of this journey of figuring out what is my nature, what makes my heart sing, as in this part of discovery, it will require some stepping out of our comfort zone. It seems that way to me. And just like something I noticed last week, I think we all know this. And in fact, I'm sure in my leadership course at Happy Jack Yoga University, the leadership confidence and voice course, in the 200 hour, I talk about, like, participating fully and engaging and asking questions. And I noticed this past year, I was just sitting back just a little bit more passively, more observant. First year here at Harvard was like all in. Second year, just kind of sitting back a little bit. And the more I sat back, the more, kind of, in a way, lose some of my confidence, the confidence to engage, confidence to participate, confidence to raise my hand. Last week in the Yoga Sutras class, I remember right at the beginning of class, I had raised my hand because I, had something to share. And then it's like, oh, that felt really good. Then all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, I'm raising my hand again to ask a question. And then a third time. And it was just this reminder for me. It's like if I go many classes in a row, kind of sitting back passively, a little bit timid, it's not bad in any way, but I just start to get comfortable in that space. And then it feels like this big hurdle to like share in front of all these people who are smarter than me. And but then all of a sudden when I did it once and it's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then it's like, then all of a sudden it's like, I want to do it again. I want to do it again. So that's just that reminder for all of us that to be mindful when we're kind of staying a little bit stagnant in our comfort zone, and just remembering that when we take that first step, we just get a little bit of momentum, and then that's why we get on our yoga mats every day and do our spiritual practices. It's like building this momentum, building this, cultivating this, so it just becomes easy and natural. Kind of like I couldn't skip I couldn't skip a day of training if I tried. Like I just couldn't do it. It's just so conditioned, and not in an unhealthy way, like in a really empowering way. And so whatever else we want to do, whether that's public speaking, whether that's yoga teaching, whether that's connecting with people, we need to build that muscle as well.
Yeah, I like how you make it like that would be what I would like see in that share is that it's a muscle. The participation in life is a muscle. And all of this for me boils down to the question how to participate in life fully. What is it that makes you feel like you're participating in life fully with everything that you
Mm.
are? And that probably comes with a little bit of an edge of uncomfortableness first. And then, because I think like to feel that we participate fully, to feel that we advance in life or that life is a successful process for us, we need to have the sensation of overcoming something, right? Doing something that we didn't do before. Like otherwise everything is stagnant and dull, right?
Mm. Yeah. That's it. And that's the beauty of life. This is the journey we get to go on.
Yeah, like
And
happiness is not just doing what you already know repeatedly forever and ever. Because if it was, then a lot of us would be super happy already all the time, automatically.
yeah, that's it. I love it. What makes your heart sing? I see our friend Ryan Knight. Oh, wait, sorry, we're trying not to call out last names. Our friend Ryan. He's playing the guitar up in Canada. That probably makes his heart sing. So I love that idea of finding, just finding our nature, our path. And I want to be mindful though, Hanna, in this last section of the podcast, it's hot seat time. It is hot seat time. It's a time for me to put you on the hot seat. And truthfully, I didn't go searching the internet. I didn't get out the old chat GPT and find the best, juiciest questions to ask your ex or your whoever. But I guess what was, because we've been talking a lot this past week, these past couple of weeks about like, well, what's next? We've had this run for 10 years and amazing things that we've created. And now, this uncoupling that we've been doing the past couple of years is like becoming more and more formal and official and feels really good for both of us. And I just wanted to put it out there for you as you look forward. If you were to predict, and you can speak about yourself, about myself, about Happy Jack Yoga. As you look forward into the future, if you were to predict, like where do you end up? Where do I end up? What does Happy Jack Yoga grow into next? Kind of anything in that realm,
How far forward?
as you like,
After
whatever.
Kali Yuga?
Well, that's some hundreds of thousands of years. So let's keep it in this lifetime.
So where we
Start,
will.
start, start, start one at a time. In the last, just so you touch on all of them, give us an idea where do you think you end up? And you could talk either physically, you can talk professionally, you can talk what does your life look like? Now you're in this new relationship. If you were to predict me, where do I end up? Do I keep the head shaved monk style and move into an ashram for the rest of my life, as long as they got a Wi-Fi to do Sunday satsang? And uh, and then you could say something about happy jack yoga. Maybe those three areas.
I'm gonna answer
Crystal ball,
your
crystal ball.
question first. I think you're gonna go the other extreme and make it long like mine again. And um, so that's where your hair is going.
Okay.
When it comes to where I'm gonna end up, that I don't know. What I do know that the next step for me is right now that feels really like an extension or continuation on Happy Jack Yoga and my kind of personal journey within Happy Jack Yoga and this community and this creation is that I see myself um offering and serving in a deeper way because of my therapy training, and psychotherapy training has been maybe the most fun thing I've done ever since after my first 200-hour. And that's a lot because I've done a lot of things in these past 10 years. So I want to keep evolving that. Like it feels like the path that I'm on that I was always meant to be on, where God lovingly placed me. And
Mhm.
I'm so excited about that. And what that leads to, I don't know, but that's what I intend to do and create offerings in that capacity. And maybe also just like you have a mentorship group, I want to make some kind of therapy group within Happy Jack
Mhm.
Yoga where we together practice different therapy styles in a group setting.
Yeah.
Lights went off.
I love that. I just want to say, well, you know, I love that vision, and it's true. Like I've had the opportunity to watch you over these past few years and doing your studies and seeing how much you enjoy it, and you're flying over to UK a few times to get that certification, that master's level training, and now you've just started. Well, you've been practicing it, but you've just started practicing with community members in Happy Jack Yoga recently, and to see how lit up you are when you come off those calls and like, oh man, I love this, and then yeah, we talk about how creating this group. And I saw Ryan raising his hand. He's like, hey, I'm in. Let me know the details of that yoga therapy group, and
Those
that's like you
conversations
finding.
I get to have, that's what makes my heart sing
Mm,
such a clear tune of happiness. The conversations I get to have with people one on one,
yeah,
incredible blessing.
that's
Like I
it.
feel like I was born for that, and not to say that anything else. For me, that's how it feels, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that, and super humbled by the beauty and the to that someone would trust me with their precious time.
Mm. And that's so cool when we find that. And it's kind of like, so for both of us, the entrance point was a yoga class, right? And that's for many of us. Some of you are just graduating your 200-hour hero's journey this past weekend. And like that's how this journey began for us. And now all of a sudden, now I'm going deep into the spiritual side of the practice, studying here at Harvard Divinity School. And you've gone deep into the therapeutic side of the practice, and so it's like finding our unique way to express this and this way to share this, and then of course the cool, we get to collaborate, and we've seen others in the community as well collaborate, people with different strengths bringing things together. And I mean, this is what it's all about. We just do a quick shout out for those who, because this is actually for a limited time. Soon you're going to be, fully graduated, certified, and charge a normal rate for therapy. But for our friends here, members of the Happy Jack Yoga community, right now we have this 50%,
And
50%
listeners,
off.
let's include everyone.
Yeah, that's what I mean. People who are listening here, either live with us if you're listening, for $50, which is quite. I mean, truthfully, I pay 150 for my therapist, so you're getting like 1/3 the price for $50. You get a full session with Hanna, with this unique system, this unique style of yoga therapy. And so, if you're interested, send us an email at info@happyjackyoga.com. Hanna's got limited amount of spots, and just a certain amount of spots to fulfill your requirements to get certified. And then naturally the price will go up. But we'd love to share that gift with you. So if you feel curious to give it a try, send us an email and well, yeah, I see Sue's like, I'm booked. Yeah, that's right. Some of you on this call are booked. And if anybody else hears it and you want to give it a shot, please do.
Yeah,
But with
thanks for
that,
the shout out.
yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. It's so easy because I see how much you love it and how lit up you are about it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, because I know I get excited about certain things in life, and it's so fulfilling to see other people also
Yeah.
lit up in that
And
way.
yesterday I was saying like, oh my God, Jack, I can't believe like this is what it's felt like to you this whole time. Like I could see that in you, like building the business and doing all the things and being so lit up all the time and like endless amounts of energy. I'm like, oh, it's Sunday. Like I don't want to work on a Sunday or something like that. And you're just always on it because you love it so much. And that's how I feel now. Like I can't wait to write another newsletter, but not because I don't know, it just feels like it makes my heart sing that there's
Mm,
something that I love so much that
yeah.
I want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's it. You found it. You found it. It only took and this is not what 49 year for your 49th year, my 44th year. So anybody who's out there comparing, like what Oprah, she didn't get, didn't make it until her 40s. And
She
not that
started
we're,
in her 40s or something, like her thing started
yeah.
when she was 40.
So regardless what stage we're at, here we are. But thank you,
Never too
friends, for
late.
being here. Again, if you want to check out Trauma Informed Yoga happening live or as a self-study this week, send us an email, info@happyjackyoga.com. If you want to test out a private therapy session with Hanna, email us, same address. And otherwise, we'll be back here next week. Next week, we'll be both live in Canada. Soon, we're going to be letting you know about the Muskoka Yoga Retreat. We're going to see many of you there. That's going to be happening this summer. But until then, my friends, make it an amazing rest of the day. Namaste.
Namaste, friends.